Hello everyone, this is my next project that I just finished. Now this was a dresser that was found on the side of the road. My neighbors all know that I like to flip furniture, and so my neighbor Christine called me and said, "Hey, there's a dresser and I'll stand next to it until you get here with your car to pick it up." So it was about 3 blocks away from my house. And it came with a mirror that was in kind of bad condition, and the knobs of the dresser were little flowers, and they were really sweet. However, there were only 3 that weren't broken. So you'll see at the very end of the video that I used some white knobs from a prior job. So the first thing I'm doing here is taking the whole thing apart, and I'm going to be washing it with Simple Green, and then I rinse it off with water. I am then going to take off all of the veneer at the bottom. Right now you can see I'm doing that because this is worth very little. So where I live in the Pacific Northwest, something like this that's in perfect condition, even if it was antique and just like this. I saw one a couple of days ago on Marketplace that was for sale for $120. So I do this because of the channel and because my house doesn't have a lot of real wood furniture. So I post these for probably about a week, and if I can't get the price I want, then I just put it in my house. At the end of the video, you will see that it's now in my extra bedroom. So there's more storage in there. Eventually, I will either have a big garage sale with all the furniture that I don't want anymore, or I will just keep on adding it to my house, which is a great thing to do. I love the furniture. So when I have a piece of furniture, I not only clean the front, but I do clean the back of it because it's always dusty. And for this one, I turned it upside down and I cleaned the inside of it very well. And I believe that a lot of the wood was fir. And the reason why I think that is because my house, which was built in 1909, has a lot of fir trim. And the way that the grain of the wood goes, here's some dirty water for you. I love that. So the way that the grain goes, it's very easy to snag on a cloth if you're cleaning it. And this is exactly what happened on this piece of furniture. So the bottom of it, I also sanded, not just where you see, because you want it to be very smooth. So I sanded it with, I believe, 80 grit, and that was to get all of the stain off. Now, I know a lot of people use stripper, but I try to not use stripper unless I really need to. And the reason for that is it's stinky, it doesn't work too well, and once I am finished with my 5-gallon stripper that I bought last year, I will never buy stripper again. I love the Serve Prep sander. That's what I'm using right now. So I'm sanding all of it down. Now the top of this dresser was dark and you could not see the stain. Once I sanded all of the stain off, you can see the big stain that's right there. Now, I originally was going to make this whole thing white. I was going to whitewash it and then use white wax to finish it off. And I mostly kept to that idea. However, the sides here that you can see and the front had a lot of veneer that was coming off. And I could have taken all the veneer off if I was going to sell it. I could have done that. However, as I mentioned, this is not worth very much. So I thought for myself, this is what I want to do. Now, taking these off was really difficult. And one of them that I actually had to have my dad help me. And he used his, what's it called? He sanded the screw off and made a little new dent in it, a little groove, so we could take one of the knobs off. Now, for everything I do, I make 2 videos. I make one in ASMR, which is just sound, because a lot of people don't like listening to people talk. And then I have one like this, which I talk about things like what I'm doing here or a story or something like that. So if you want to see my dad take off the screw that was so badly attached to this, it's in the ASMR video. Now, whenever I have a dresser, I always sand the bottom part. And when I was doing this, once again, there was a lot of the wood grain that was coming up, and that makes it slide very difficult. I love these wheels, so I sanded them gently, and then I put Odie's oil on them, and they are a solid walnut, and I just think are so pretty. Oh, I just love it. Now, the back legs did have a fine crack in it, and you can also see there are some little patches in the front because I did use the quick wood to try to make some of the holes in it not so obvious. So here you can see I'm putting that on there with my fingers, with no gloves, which is against the directions, so don't do that. However, I have mentioned many times before that I'm not a woman of a childbearing age, and when I use gloves, I can't manage the quick wood. However, I love the quick wood, so I am not saying anything disparaging about it. It's just that I can't do it with gloves on. And it takes about, I usually let it have a whole day for it to dry. So then I sand it all down so it's all flat. I also sanded the inside of this, and originally I was not going to paint the whole item white. I was going to put the Odie's oil on the front, and then I was going to do the whites on the top and on the front of the drawers and the sides, and then you will see how it looks. And I went on vacation for a week, and I came back, and it was sitting in the living room just drying because the living room's a warm place in the house, and it's out of the way. And I came back, and I hated it. So I'm showing the paints. This is paint that I used for the ceiling in my living room and dining room. So that 1909 house had kind of that ugly acoustical tile, and I hated it since I was a kid. So about, I'd say maybe before COVID, so 4 years ago, my husband and I took all of the acoustical tiles down, as well as the old lath and plaster, and we brought it all to the dump, and then we got professionals to put new ceilings on. So that paint I used for the furniture, and so far it's all held up very nicely. So if you're on a budget, there's no reason to go out and buy the $30 big containers of really nice paints, because sometimes the cheaper paint works really well. I do like using Howard Feed and wax on all of the inside drawers. It makes it smell nice like orange, and also I think it's really nice look, and it looks great. I love it. So I think that people who refurbish furniture, that furniture is in usually better shape than brand new stuff. One of my girlfriends just bought brand new bedroom set, and when she opened it, she had to air it out for a couple of weeks because of the horrible glue they used for the lining, and I was just so sad for her because I would never buy new furniture. Old furniture, I like it so much better. So when I get the drawers, I always clean all sides of them. I sand inside and outside. And you can see the different gloss. And after about a half an hour, you can buff the wax off. And then it smells so good. Right now I have some blankets in the waterfall dresser that I made. And when I open up the drawers, it just smells so delightful. This stuff stays good for a long time. I keep it in my garage, and once I whitewash the top, I then used 120 grit sandpaper to get the extra stuff off, the extra paint off, so it'd be a little bit lighter. I didn't want it to be a solid color. And people who have seen this, now that it's all finished, all of them have said, oh, I love the top. So you can see the wood grain in it, and it covers up that stain, and it just looks so fresh in my opinion. Okay, now I decided that I am going to, this is the whitewash still. Okay, so now I'm whitewashing all of the dresser. And I watched somebody, I think it's Desert DIY, and she always flips her furniture over first and paints the underside of it. So that way, when you deliver it or if you're moving it, it's, I think, a really smart idea. So that's what I did here. It's always great to watch YouTube videos to see what other people do when they flip their furniture. And I also just saw a post that one or two of the flippers that I watch from Canada went to a Vegas convention about woodworking. And those ladies, I just think, are amazing pros. And I, of course, don't know what their furniture looks like up close. But I spent hours on this piece of furniture, and it's so not perfect. And it's just very frustrating when I try really hard, and it just doesn't look as good as it does on YouTube with other people. So all I have to say is this was going to be thrown away. On the side of the road, there was a free sign on it, and now it's going to be used for at least 50 more years. So if you can get furniture that people are going to throw away in a really bad condition, and you can make it your own, and you don't have time constraints, like you don't have a lot of little kids or a full-time job, which I don't have right now, fixing up things for use for yourself or for others, I think is so great. Like Salvage by Kay Scott. She just redoes the furniture and donates it for people in need. I think that's so awesome. So here I am whitewashing it. So I use about half and half. So half regular white paints and then half water. And so here you can see the front of the dresser. I hate it. And the side, I hate it. I hate this. I think it looks so horrible. I do not know why I thought it would look so great. After I whitewashed it, I then put a white wax on it, and I put the knobs on it, and yes, I hate it. So it's in the living room. It was there for a week, and when I came back, I said, no way, this is horrible. So I brought it back to the garage, and I used a heat gun to not only try to get rid of the wax, but also to get rid of some of the loose veneer. Now, if I were going to try to sell this, I would have tried to remove all the veneer so it was a lot smoother. But in reality, I just removed the loose stuff. I then sanded it all down with an 80 grit sandpaper. I put Minwax walnut stain on it. Was it walnut or mahogany? You'll see. I show maybe it's mahogany. And then I sanded it again to make all of it a lot smoother. And then I put on some wax on it. And for the bedroom, you'll see the very end. It looks great. So here I'm removing all of the wax that I put on. I know, it's very annoying. And I do like the wood grain, and the whitewash and the white wax just really took that away. And so far, nobody has pointed out the errors that I can see. Like on the top left, that's where the veneer came off. And I just sanded it really smoothly. So if you feel it, you can't feel the groove, but I think you can see it. But once again, yeah, so there's the gel stain. I love it so much. So I just use a chip brush for that. I use my gloves because that way they don't get all over my hands. And for some reason, These containers are not very good. So I bought these, and every time I use it, there's a layer of dried gel stain. And growing up, I always used gel stain, and it never did that. So something's wrong with whatever company they're using to purchase their containers from. I think it's really bad. So once I put the gel stain on, I then wipe it off. And you can just leave it on there. It takes longer to dry. And here you can see the veneer came off, and that's where I sanded it. And you can see a slight differentiation of color. However, I don't care. If you ever came to my house, you would see I love these dark stains. Okay, now I'm staining the dresser drawer fronts. And if I really cared, I would have stained the dovetail as well for it to match, but Okay, so this is the wax that I used. And the reason why I'm using it is I want to get rid of it. And it smells horrible. And my father had a container of it, and then I bought a container of it way back, like maybe a year and a half ago. So once it's done being used, I will never use it again. It just smells horrible. And yeah. So that is something you put on. You leave for about half an hour. You buff it off. And it does work really well. I am not saying anything bad about the product as something to use. However, there are so many products that smell good. Why use something that smells bad? However, that said, the smell only lasts for about 2 days. Now I'm buffing all the wax off. And here isn't that much better? So I use the same knobs. And I just think it looks a lot better. So always remember, if you don't like how something looks, if you have time, you can fix it. And then I brought it upstairs to the extra bedroom. Here it is beforehand. And here it is in the bedroom. And my friends just came over this weekend and used it. So excellence. All right, if you haven't subscribed, please help me out and do so. And have a great day. Bye-bye.